Morning, Year 12. So as we've talked about briefly last week, we're going to start looking at the CAS project, what it is, what you need to be doing, and getting you down the path towards thinking about what CAS project you are going to do. So the CAS project is a collaborative series of experiences that come together to form a big overall project. And it should have quite a wide-ranging impact on something, either within the school community or the local community, that shows many of the learning objectives. So it has to be collaborative, and that's kind of the first thing you need to make sure you know about your CAS project. There should be at least 3 of you. Between 3 and 5 seem to be the most functional CAS project groups. Bigger than 5 is okay if the scope of the project is so big that there would be multiple groups working towards one goal, so that you would be delegating outwards to other sections. But you can't really have more than 5 focusing on one small area of a project. So it definitely has to be collaborative, and you have to be hitting that collaborative learning objective. It should combine 2 or all 3 of the strands of CAS. We really strongly advise you include service, as this makes it the easiest to show progress and to show that there is collaboration and that there are multiple steps to make things happen within the project. So usually it would be service and creative or service and activity. Sometimes it would involve all 3, but that is rare, but it must have at least 2, one of which we strongly suggest is service. It must follow the CAS stages, which we'll talk about a little bit more. This is what I am assessing you against. That you investigate the problem that you're going to be working on in your project, you prepare to do your project, you do preparation activities and research and that kind of thing, you take action, and that you're reflecting in all of the steps of it. You must have some demonstrative, some demonstration of how your project worked. So that is lots of pieces of evidence. So we've talked about some pieces of evidence for your experiences, but you must have a big set of evidence for your CAS project, one of which you will have to have before you can start your CAS project anyway. But there is definite a need for more evidence for your project than a normal experience. And usually the last demonstration, the last bit you do, is what the Year 13s have prepared for you today to finish off their projects. So our 5 stages: investigation, so how you're going to do it, what you're going to do, those sorts of things, preparing, getting your resources, your timeline, all of that sort of thing together. The action, actually doing the project, doing the things, demonstration, showing how you did it, and at all points, the reflections, guys, the reflections on manage back at all points are really important for your project. That is why it's written on the cycle 4 times, okay? So without the reflections, your project is not going to be very effective. It must be a long-term commitment. So a minimum of sort of 2-3 months, but we strongly suggest you pull it out for the whole year and are handing over to the current Year 11s this time next year, so that it has a sustainability aspect, it is more meaningful, they are more integrated into the Dulwich Singapore community and the local community. So some of you will talk about, oh, I want to be involved in this project too, and it is okay to be involved in other projects as an experience, but your CAS project should be the one you are working most in depth on and for the duration of the project. You must have a defined purpose or goal. So same as your experience, you must have an objective to obtain by the end of it, a goal you are going to work towards, that you can talk about in your reflections, and that you are going to attempt to achieve by the end of it. you must have defined roles and responsibilities. And this is where it comes back to why groups of 3 to 5 are the most effective, because once you get beyond that 5, it's very difficult for everyone to have a defined role and objective in the thing, because you're going to have overall group objectives for the project and individual objectives for you to achieve towards your 7 learning outcomes. So you need to make sure that everyone has an assigned thing. Now, obviously, people can help one another with their roles. If someone's managing finances, someone's doing the communications and so on, you would help one another, but it is someone's responsibility. Once you get beyond a group of 5, it's very tricky to do this, guys. So we need to make sure that kind of 3 to 5, unless it's a very big project with separate sections, is definitely capable of working. You must have a supervisor who meets with you regularly. So unlike your experiences, your CAS project must have a supervisor that meets you regularly, weekly, fortnightly, whatever the schedule would be, but they must meet with you and discuss things. Now, your teacher does not need to be an expert in your project, but they need to be someone within school. So it does need to be a teacher within school who can meet with you and guide you and track what you are doing. Now, the supervisor for a CAS project is obviously more time consuming than a supervisor for an experience. So you must talk to the supervisor before you say they are going to be your supervisor to me, because it is a commitment that teachers do need to know what's going on. They don't need to be at every single meeting or every single piece of planning you do, but they do need to be involved as they go along so that they can write a meaningful review at the end. So you must ask the supervisor for your CAS project before you put their name into Manage Back. And number 8, and the most important, we've talked about you have to have goals and so on. You do not have to be successful in your project. So if you don't meet that goals, it doesn't mean you failed your CAS project. The project is passed by showing those 5 stages, by having the reflections on each of them, by reflecting on those stages effectively. So if you set yourself a fundraising target for a service project and you fail to meet that target, the reflection on that failure to meet the target is more important than meeting the target. So you can pass your CAS project even if you do not hit your goal ultimately. So now we need to think about what is going to, how you find a project if you're not sure. Now, of course, you can, if you think you've got an idea for a project, come and talk to me about your idea for your project. Okay, that is completely okay. If you are not sure about having your own project, the best thing to do is take over one that already exists. So I've shared this link into your Teams channel where it has some of the details about what the project is. And then there are 2 tabs here that you can use. The community action groups, which tend to be the bigger projects that are more focused within the community as a wider aspect in Singapore rather than just within the school, and then CAS projects that are more school-based in general. So you can go and have a look at these. Obviously, in the community action groups, we have a few different things like the Cambodia one, working with Love Meals, some migrant worker initiatives, Spectrum is within here. And within the more small-scale school-based CAS projects, there are things like the Lost Property Projects, which I know some of you have spoken to me about, Dulwich Media, a few new ideas that teachers have, things that have happened before that need handing over. So you can go and have a look through these. Within them, the Year 13s who were running these projects last year have given you some information about what they've done, what they plan to do next, or what they would like you to perhaps think about taking on and doing with the project. And it should have some contact details. So these are the first people you're going to talk to, guys, on your area that you're interested if you're taking over a project. So the Year 13, who is currently looking after it, and for lots of them, obviously, they already have a teacher supervisor for that project, so you would contact them. So what we need to do in this session is, if you have an idea for your own project and who you're going to work with, I will be coming around the room so you can talk them through with me whether they would work or not. Have a look through the current projects that exist that you could be taking over. and start thinking about how you're going to do that. The key thing you have to do eventually, guys, is to get your CAS project approved by me, specifically me with your CAS project. You have to fill in this proposal form, okay? Now, this proposal form needs to be to me by the October half term at the very latest, okay? So you have a few weeks to get all of this information together, particularly if you are going to set up your own project, like a new project we don't already have a basis for. But this proposal needs filling in. The main reason this proposal needs filling in is it allows you to show me that you have done some of the stages of the CAS cycle. So you have done some investigation, you have thought about the preparation, what you need to be doing, who your supervisor is, any problems, you have your individual goals. You can tell me who is doing what job within the thing. So you've got those specific things. So this document you will need to download and fill in as a group for me to then check over as your project proposal when you add it into ManageBack. So this form has to be in your ManageBack under your project section. And obviously you can then add it as ticking that little box that says CAS project, and I can check over your project proposal. It is sensible to send me this before you upload it into ManageBack in case anything needs changing. Note there is a box at the end that says individual goals, and that's the one where you have to obviously differentiate between each of you. So most of the boxes are going to be the same for everyone in the project, but the individual goals is going to be different, guys. And it has the CAS cycle at the bottom in case you forget. So go away, investigate some of the projects we've got ideas of. I will be coming around and chatting to each room if you've got ideas of your own, if you want to find out if they are CAS projects. Project Alleviate, who I spoke to over the weekend, yes, you will just be starting to fill in this form really for me because you know what your project is going to be. And I will see you all soon, guys. Have a good day.